Well, for close to 40 years, I was I just was analyzing large amounts of data, mostly against the Soviet Union, but also the Warsaw Pact. So it was a very large data problem, and figuring out ways to be able to see into that data and figure out what it meant and what would constitute warning for this country and other countries. Yeah. Okay. And I worked on different things like data systems, solving those systems, solving code systems, cipher systems, things like that.
Okay, very good. And that work got you actually promoted to the actual technical director of the National Security Agency.
Well, it was the area that was intelligence reporting and analysis. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
That was for the whole world. So the original Guccifer was I think a Romanian hacker who was picked up and arrested, and then after him, in July. When WikiLeaks was getting ready to publish a lot of the emails, all of a sudden Guccifer 2 appeared.
Okay.
Now the original Guccifer thought that this Guccifer 2 was a fabrication. Then Guccifer 2 started claiming that he hacked the DNC, and he had data from the DNC, and he was doing it for the Russians.
Okay.
So he then, later on, put this data out on the web as the data that he hacked from Russia, from the DNC. So he claimed that. So now we had some data to look at forensically and look and see exactly what we could tell from the data itself, what it meant and whether or not it was really a hack. Like Comey claimed that this was an indication of the Russian involvement. So we started looking at this, and what this file here is simply every data file, the amount of bytes in the data, plus the timestamp at the end of the file. And it was file after file, timestamp after timestamp. So you could take between any two timestamps and calculate the number of bytes involved, or bits, and also then the rate of transfer of the data. With every file you could do that.
Okay.
So, and the highest rate of transfer we got from this was 49.1 megabytes per second. Now we knew that could not go across the network, but some of the people claimed that it could. So we tried it. So we said, okay, we had some people here put up a data set of about a gigabyte, and we had some friends in Europe that would try to test it to see how quickly they could pull it across. And they did it from various locations in the Netherlands, in Albania, and Belgrade, and also in the UK. And the fastest rate we got was from a data center in New Jersey and a data center to a data center in the UK. And that was 12 megabytes per second, which is less than a fourth of the rate necessary to transfer the data as it was listed from Guccifer 2.
Wow.
That just simply meant that this was an impossible transfer at that rate.
So what do you, so it couldn't have been, however,
it is a perfect download rate for a thumb drive. So then we were looking at the data, and Guccifer 2 put out two sets of data.
Okay.
One dated the 5th of July of 2016, the other dated the 1st of September of 2016. So we started looking a little closer at it, since it was during the basically a same compacted amount of time. And if you looked at it and you ignored the hour and the date, but looked at minutes, seconds, and milliseconds, those two data sets merged just like that. So that meant that Guccifer 2 was manipulating the data. He was taking one file down, splitting it into two parts, issuing one for the 5th of July and one for the 1st of September. So he's fabricating. He's manipulating and changing the data, and so the whole thing is about Guccifer 2 is a fabrication. It's worse than that though, because even if you looked at some of the people who are still looking, are still looking at timestamps, and they're seeing the timestamping with the transactional information inside the data itself, and they're seeing that there's several different timestamps. One for the East Coast of the United States, one for Central Time, and one for the Pacific Time. But all that meant to me was it didn't change anything. It just simply said they're playing with the data and doing it in different areas. That's fine, but it's still not an overseas hack, and it's still a fabricated set of data. 3 agencies only claimed that this was highly likely. Now it's even worse than that, because only 2 claimed it to be highly likely, and they were the 2 that didn't matter. That was CIA and FBI. The one that did matter was NSA, and they said they had moderate confidence. Now,
but they go out and claim that 17 agencies
claim
across
17,
the board.
yeah.
So you guys heard on the news how 17 agencies collaborated that the DNC hack was actually committed by Russians.
that was one of the first things that told me that this entire story was false, was the fact that NSA had moderate stuff, and they didn't come out and clearly say, this is what was hacked, it went here and it went there, and that place over there is where they did it from. Because if you recall, about 4 years ago, the Chinese hacked into some stuff here in the U.S., and then NSA came out and said, yes, they did it from that building in Shanghai. You can tell that by the IPs, and NSA has all these traceroute programs on the web inside the United States, because they're watching us too, and also around the world. So if anybody's going to, and the choke points are the points of transfer to the transoceanic cables. So that's where all the foreign stuff comes in, all the stuff going to foreigners goes out, all the stuff transiting the U.S. from foreigner to foreigner, like from Europe to Japan.
Right.
That goes through the U.S. and they all come into those choke points of where the transoceanic cables surface. And NSA covers them like hound dog. So they know everything that goes across the net. And they should be able to come out. If this was truly a Russian hack, they should say it came from that building in that city in Russia.
President Trump said if you want to know what's going on with this stuff, he told Pompeo to go ahead and get a hold of Bill Binney. And guys, again, Bill is the former tech director of our national security agency. So you are having an expert that deals with this kind of data come to you and tell you we have forensic proof right here, forensic proof that this was not a Russian hack into the DNC, that it was done locally.
NSA actually would have all the data that was transferred to WikiLeaks from Seth Rich if he did it. So, and that's what the assertion is, and certainly they would have that data going across, again, those ports going the transoceanic cables. There is no reason why they wouldn't have that data.
Tell us about the mathematical chances of this, like we were talking.
Well, it's like 40 or 50 files that merged from the September 1st data into the 5 July. And if you just said, well, what's the chance of any one matching a gap in the 5 July data?
Any one.
It's like probably 1 in 100, going through the seconds and all over the time period. And then you could say, I mean, that would be a rough estimate. And then you could say, okay, well, then the probability of them both merging is like 1 chance in 100 to the 50th power.
And what does that mean to us non-mathematical
Well, it's like
folks?
a 1 followed by 100 zeros. 1 chance in that number.
Wow.